The surveillance photos scattered across Choi Gyong-see's mahogany desk like accusations. Jalisa's hands trembled as she held up the image of her mother, Marisol Martinez, captured outside their Miami home, unaware she was being watched. The date stamp read 3 months before Jalisa had ever booked her flight to Seoul. 3 months before she'd believed any of this was real. "Tell me this isn't what I think it is." Her voice cracked. Dark brown fingers crushing the photo's edges. The gold undertones of her skin looked washed out under the office's cold lighting, and she hated how small she felt in this moment, all 5'4" of her, drowning in betrayal. Gyong-se stood by the floor-to-ceiling windows of his Gangnam penthouse, silhouetted against Seoul's glittering skyline. At 42, he wore violence like a second skin, in the geometric tattoos that covered his arms and disappeared beneath his shirt, in the dragon that curled up his neck, in the scars on his knuckles that told stories he'd never shared. The city lights made him look like something carved from shadow and sin. He didn't turn around. Somehow, that was worse than any confession. "How long have you been watching my family?" Each word scraped her throat raw. His shoulders tensed beneath his tailored black suit. When he finally spoke, his Korean was soft, careful. "Jalisa ya, don't." She switched to English, needing the distance her native language provided. "Don't add that tender suffix to my name like it means something, not when you've been—" She couldn't finish, couldn't breathe past the invisible hand crushing her chest. Her other hand drifted unconsciously to her stomach, still flat, still hiding the secret she'd discovered just yesterday morning. 3 positive pregnancy tests that had turned her world inside out even before she'd found these photos. Now she didn't know which revelation was destroying her faster. "Turn around." Her voice steadied, went cold. "Look at me and tell me the truth." Gyong-se moved like a predator, all lethal grace as he turned. Those obsidian eyes that had once looked at her like she was salvation now confirmed every fear. "Your father." He said it in English, and she knew her world was about to collapse. "Roberto Martinez. He testified against my organization 15 years ago." The room tilted. She gripped the desk's edge, her box braids swinging forward to hide her face. "My father? What does my father have to do with everything?" He took a step closer, and she hated how her body still sang at his proximity, how her skin still remembered every place he'd touched her. "That testimony cost me everything. My father's empire, my brother's life." The laugh that escaped her was broken glass. "So this was what? Revenge. You orchestrated everything. Iraewon, that murder I accidentally witnessed, dragging me here to play translator. I needed you close." His jaw clenched, muscle ticking beneath, the ink on his throat. "Under my control. To destroy me?" She was shouting now, her Miami accent thickening with emotion. "To hurt me? To use me to get back at my father for something that happened when I was 9 years old?" But here's what she wasn't saying, what was screaming beneath her anger. "And I'm pregnant. I'm carrying your baby. I'm 24 and pregnant by a man who played me like a fool." The silence stretched taut as a tripwire. Then Gyong-se closed the distance in 2 strides, and her back hit the desk. His hands landed on either side of her hips, caging her in, and she hated that even drowning in betrayal, her body betrayed her. Heat pooled low in her belly despite everything. "It started that way," he said, voice rough as gravel. "I won't lie to you, not anymore. When I learned Roberto Martinez had a daughter studying at Yonsei." His gaze dropped to her mouth. "I saw an opportunity." "You're a monster." But her fingers curled into his shirt, torn between shoving him away and pulling him closer. The expensive fabric wrinkled under her grip. "Garayo." Yes. His forehead dropped to hers, and she felt him shaking. This man who'd built Seoul's underworld trembling against her. But Jalisa, what happened after, what we became, was a lie. She forced the words past the lump in her throat. "Every touch, every time you said my name like a prayer, every time you—" Her voice broke. "Every time you held me after and spoke to me in Spanish because you knew it made me feel less alone in this city." She'd forgotten he'd learned Spanish for her, that he'd spent nights practicing pronunciation just to whisper "mi reina" against her skin. Was that part of the plan too? Tears burned her eyes. Learning my mother's language, asking about my grandmother's recipes, pretending to care about acting. His laugh was self-loathing incarnate. You think I'm that good of an actor? That I could fake this? His hand came up to cup her face with devastating gentleness, thumb catching the tear that escaped. The touch nearly broke her, because she was 8 weeks pregnant with this man's child, because every survival instinct screamed at her to run, because her heart, her stupid, stubborn heart, still wanted to believe him. "I think," she whispered, "you're exactly who you've always been. A man who takes what he wants, damn the consequences." She met his eyes and twisted the knife, and I was stupid enough to forget that. She shoved him back, hard. He let her, which somehow hurt worse. "I'm leaving, tonight." She grabbed her bag with shaking hands. "First flight to Miami, and you're going to let me go." And way. No, simple, absolute, terrifying. It wasn't a request. "Your father is in danger." She froze halfway to the door, hand suspended in mid-air. "What?" "My uncle, before I killed him and took control, he had loyalists." Gyung-si moved to the desk, pulled out another file with movements that looked like they cost him. "They've been hunting anyone connected to your father's testimony for 15 years. He held out surveillance reports and she saw, not photos of her family's normal life, but tactical assessments, threat analyses, men watching her family being watched by his men. I've had a security team protecting them for 3 years, he said quietly. Your mother's grocery store route, your brother's basketball practice, the boyfriend your sister doesn't know you know about." His voice cracked. "I know everything because I've been keeping them alive." Jaleesa's knees buckled. She sat hard in the nearest chair, mind reeling. "So you brought me here for revenge," she said slowly, trying to piece it together. "But keeping me close became about keeping you breathing." He crouched in front of her, and the position put them eye level, made him look almost vulnerable. "The moment you stepped off that plane at Incheon, you became a target. Having you under my protection, in my home, it was the only way. Now here's what you need to understand about what happens next, because Jaleesa was 8 weeks pregnant, sitting in front of the man who'd orchestrated their entire relationship, learning that his manipulation had somehow also saved her family's lives. If you're already hooked on this impossible love story, if you need to know whether Jaleesa tells him about the baby, whether revenge can turn into redemption, hit that subscribe button right now. Because this is just the beginning, and trust me, you don't want to miss what happens when Seoul's most dangerous man finds out he's going to be a father. How do you process that? How do you reconcile hatred with gratitude? How do you tell a man who's capable of such calculated cruelty that he's going to be a father? The rest, her voice came out small, broken. When you... That was the part that destroyed every plan I had. His hand moved like he wanted to touch her, then fell away. I was supposed to keep you close, monitored, controlled. His jaw clenched. I wasn't supposed to fall in love with you. The words hung between them like a bomb waiting to detonate. You don't get to say that, she whispered. You don't get to tell me you love me after... I know. He stood, putting distance between them like it hurt. I know I don't. But you asked for truth, Jaleesa. So here it is. I brought you here to punish your father by breaking his daughter. His voice went raw. Instead, you broke me. Completely. And I don't know how to fix this. She stared at this impossible man, 18 years older, covered in tattoos that told stories of violence, speaking 3 languages to bridge the gap between them. Seoul's most feared crime lord, admitting she'd shattered him. And inside her, their baby was growing. A tiny collection of cells that didn't know its father was a monster or that its mother had fallen for him anyway. I need time, she managed, to think, to take it. He didn't move to stop her. But you're not leaving Seoul, not while the threat is active. so I'm still your prisoner. Anya. No. His eyes burned into hers. Neon ne jonbuya, you're my everything. There's a difference. The Korean phrase hit different than English would have. More honest, more devastating. Jaleesa walked out before she could do something catastrophic, like forgive him, like tell him about the baby. She made it to her bedroom, the guest suite that had stopped feeling like a cage somewhere between the first time he'd cooked her breakfast and the night he'd held her through homesick tears, and let herself break. Because how did you mourn something that had never been real? How did you grieve a love built on lies? And how so? Were you supposed to tell a man who'd orchestrated your entire relationship that in 7 months he'd be holding his daughter or son? She pressed both hands to her still flat stomach, tears streaming. "What do we do, baby?" she whispered. "What the hell do we do?" Outside her door, footsteps paused. She knew his presence by now, the weight of it, the way the air shifted, his palm pressed against the wood between them. "Mianai, sarange." "I'm sorry, I love you." The Korean made it worse, more real. She didn't answer, couldn't. His footsteps retreated, and she was alone with the wreckage of her heart and the secret growing inside her. Tomorrow she'd have to face him. Tomorrow she'd have to decide if love built on manipulation could ever become something real. Tomorrow she'd have to find the courage to tell Seoul's most dangerous man that he was going to be a father. But tonight she mourned the fairy tale she'd believed in, the version of them that had never existed, except... And this was the thought that kept her awake until dawn painted Seoul's sky pink. What if the fairy tale had been real? What if the manipulation had been the lie he'd told himself, and everything after had been the truth? What if Choi Gyung-si, Mafia Don, cold-blooded killer, had actually fallen first? And what would he do when he found out about the baby? Jaleesa didn't sleep. She watched Seoul's skyline fade from black to charcoal, to that bruised purple that came before dawn. One hand pressed against her stomach, like she could protect the life inside from all of this. Her phone sat on the nightstand, screen dark. 17 missed calls from her mother over the past 2 weeks. Jaleesa had been dodging them, unable to explain why she was still in Seoul months after her semester ended, unable to lie about where she was living, unable to say, "Mommy, I fell in love with a gangster who might have orchestrated our entire relationship." At 7 a.m., nausea hit her like a freight train. She barely made it to the bathroom, tile cold against her knees. Her braids fell forward and she was gathering them back with shaking hands when the door opened. "Don't," she tried to say, but her body had other plans. Gyung-si said nothing, just knelt beside her, gathered her hair with surprising gentleness, pressed something cool against the back of her neck. His other hand found the small of her back, steady pressure that somehow helped. The bathroom was too small for this, for his presence, for her vulnerability, for the bizarre intimacy of him holding her hair while she fell apart. Steam from the shower she'd run earlier still clung to the mirrors, making everything hazy and unreal. When it finally passed, she slumped against the bathtub, gasping. He was crouched beside her in expensive silk pajama pants and nothing else, and morning light cut across the phoenix tattoo that spread across his chest. Wings stretching toward his shoulders, tail feathers disappearing below his waistband. The geometric patterns on his arms looked like armor in this light. She'd traced those lines with her tongue once, had learned that the scars on his ribs came from a knife fight when he was 17, that the characters inked above his heart spelled his dead brother's name. Now she couldn't look at him without seeing the surveillance photos. How long? His voice was sandpaper rough, and she realized he probably hadn't slept either. Dark circles shadowed his eyes. How long what? She reached for her toothbrush with shaking hands, needing something to do besides drown in his proximity. The sickness. He stood, moving to wet another washcloth at the sink. Water ran cold, then warm. This isn't the first time. Her hand froze. It's just stress. From yesterday. Those obsidian eyes pinned her in place through the mirror. Jaleesa ya. The tender suffix made her chest ache. I've spent 3 months learning every tell, every micro-expression. Your left eye twitches when you lie. He handed her the cloth, fingers brushing hers. It's twitching now. Damn him for being that observant. You've been tired, he continued, voice careful, clinical. Emotional. You stopped drinking coffee 2 weeks ago, said it tasted metallic. His jaw clenched. And 3 days ago, when I touched your breast, you flinched, said it was tender. Her heart hammered against her ribs. She'd forgotten that. Forgotten he noticed everything. Yesterday morning, his voice dropped dangerously quiet. I heard you crying in the bathroom, heard plastic clicking, like... Realization and terror crashed across his face in real time. Imsin Heseo? Are you pregnant? The Korean phrase hit harder than English would have. More intimate, more real. She couldn't answer, couldn't breathe. Her silence was confirmation enough. His knees hit the tile. Just buckled. This man who'd survived 2 decades in Seoul's underworld, who'd killed his own uncle to take control, who never showed weakness, dropped like someone had cut his strings. Ilmana Duesio. How far along? 8 weeks. The admission scraped out. Maybe 9. The tests were yesterday morning. 3 of them. All positive. Her voice cracked. I was trying to figure out how to tell you when I found the photos. She watched him process it. Watched him remember that night 9 weeks ago when they'd been careless, desperate, her nails raking down his back while he gasped Spanish endearments against her throat. Uriah! His hand reached toward her stomach, stopped midair like he was afraid to touch. Our baby. Uriah iseo. We have a baby. I don't know if there's an us anymore. Tears burned. I don't know what's real, if you actually want me or if this is just another way to control. Her phone exploded with sound on the bathroom counter. Not her ringtone, his, urgent, sharp, the one reserved for emergencies. Gyeongsi grabbed it and she watched him shift from vulnerable to lethal in a heartbeat. Mawarago. What? She couldn't hear the other side, but she watched color drain from his face, watched his free hand curl into a fist, knuckles going white. When? Pause. His eyes cut to hers. EOD? Where? Whatever the answer was, it made his jaw go rigid. Keep visual, don't engage. His voice was pure command. I'm coming now. He ended the call, and when he looked at her, she saw something she'd never seen before in those cold eyes. Fear. Your brother. The words came out carefully controlled, which made them worse. Michael, he's in Seoul. Her world stopped. What? No, Michael is in Miami. He has basketball regionals. He landed at Incheon 3 hours ago. Gyeongsi was already moving, grabbing clothes from the bedroom. My men at airport security recognized him from surveillance. He came through on a student visa. Oh my God. Ice flooded her veins. He can't be here. Gyeongsi, if your uncle's people find out, they already know. He pulled on pants, shirt, movements sharp with urgency. We intercepted chatter 40 minutes ago. They're mobilizing a team. No. Michael was 19, thought he was invincible, probably flew here to rescue his sister, like some kind of action movie hero. He had no idea what he'd walked into. How did he even... She tried to stand, but dizziness hit. Gyeongsi caught her elbow. How did Michael know where I was? Your phone. His voice was grim. You've been declining your mother's calls, but you didn't block Michael's location sharing. He tracked you to Gangnam, figured out you weren't at your university apartment anymore. Stupid. She'd been so stupid. We have to get him. She steadied herself against the counter. Right now. You're staying here. His hand tightened on her arm. You're pregnant. You just got sick, and I'm not risking both of you. That's my baby brother. She jerked away. I'm not hiding in this penthouse while he's in danger because of me. Because of me. His voice went quiet, deadly. My world, my enemies. You think I'm letting you anywhere near? You don't get to let me do anything. Her Miami accent thickened with fury. You want to prove you're not just trying to control me? Then stop acting like I'm your prisoner and treat me like you're... She stopped. Because what was she? His girlfriend? His victim? The mother of his child? Partner. The word came out raw. Treat me like your partner. The word hung between them, heavy with implication. She watched him war with himself, every instinct screaming to lock her in this tower where she was safe. But she also watched something shift in those dark eyes. Some grudging respect, maybe, or the realization that she'd never forgive him if Michael died while she hid. Ara. Fine. He grabbed his jacket and she saw the gun holster beneath. Black metal that caught the light. But you stay in the car with Dae-jung. You don't leave the vehicle. You don't... His hand shot out, catching her chin, forcing her to meet his eyes. You don't take a single risk with our baby. Ara. Understand? The possessiveness in his voice should have made her angry. Instead, traitorous heat pooled low in her belly. I'll go Iseo. I know. She pulled back before she did something catastrophic like kiss him. Where is Michael now? Hongdae, the university district. He was already moving toward the door, showing your photo to street vendors, asking questions in broken Korean. Her heart lurched. There's only one place he'd go first if he's looking for me. Where? Professor Kim's office at Yonsei. She was my faculty advisor. Michael knows I talked about her in my emails home. Jaleesa grabbed clothes, pulling them on with shaking hands. He'd go there first, ask if she knows where I am. Gyeongsi's expression shifted, calculation replacing panic. Then that's where we start. He pulled out his phone. 대중아, 지금 차고에서 만나. 완전 경비. Meet me at the garage now. Full security. They moved through the penthouse in tense silence. Jaleesa's mind spun. How long before Michael knocked on Professor Kim's door? How long before rival gang members found him first? If you're wondering whether they'll reach him in time, whether Jaleesa's about to watch her baby brother die because she fell for the wrong man, you're not alone. She was wondering the same thing, one hand pressed to her stomach, praying to a god she wasn't sure was listening anymore. The elevator doors closed on them, and in the mirrored walls she caught their reflection, her dark brown skin against his, covered in ink, her exhausted face next to his battle-ready one, her cotton shirt next to his leather jacket. They looked like a contradiction, like something that shouldn't exist, but her hand was on her stomach, protecting the life they'd created, and his hand was on the gun at his hip, ready to kill for them both. After this, she said quietly as numbers descended, after we get Michael safe, we talk, really talk, about everything. Gyuri. Yes, his jaw was granite. Whatever you want to know, I'll tell you everything. No more lies. The elevator opened into the parking garage, and she saw 5 black SUVs waiting, armed men in tactical gear. This was Gyeongsi's world, violence and strategy and death, and she was about to walk right into it to save her brother. Promise me something, she said as they approached the lead vehicle. Morning light filtered through the garage's open bay, turning everything amber. Anything. Promise me you won't become what I'm afraid you are. She looked up at him, and all her fear crashed through the anger. Promise me there's still something human under all that darkness. He cupped her face with both hands, and his kiss was brief but devastating, desperate and claiming and almost reverent. She tasted mint and something darker, something that might have been fear. Sarangae, he breathed against her lips. I love you. And I swear on our child's life, I'll prove I'm more than the monster. Then he handed her into the SUV's leather interior, and they raced into Seoul's morning traffic toward whatever violence was waiting. Jaleesa pressed both hands to her stomach and whispered, Aguanta, bebe, aguanta, Michael. Hold on, baby, hold on, Michael. But in the back of her mind, one question screamed louder than everything else. What if they were already too late? What if she was about to watch her brother die? Professor Kim's office sat on the 3rd floor of Yonsei's Humanities building, tucked between ancient vending machines and bulletin boards, plastered with study abroad flyers. Jaleesa had spent countless hours there last semester, discussing Korean linguistics over terrible, instant coffee. Now she was racing toward it in an SUV full of armed men, praying her baby brother hadn't already gotten himself killed. Approaching target location, Dae-jung said from the driver's seat, his Korean clipped and professional. He was Gyeong-si's second-in-command, buzz-cut, tactical vest, all efficiency. Visual confirmed, southwest corner, red hoodie. Red hoodie. Michael's University of Miami basketball gear. Relief and terror hit Jaleesa simultaneously. The SUV pulled into a loading zone across from the Humanities building, and she saw him, tall and lanky, painfully American, showing his phone to a group of students, probably her picture. Her baby brother, completely unaware he'd walked into a war zone. Saraida. He's alive. Gyeong-si's voice was tight. His hand found hers in the back seat, squeezed once. She should pull away, maintain the anger. Her fingers tightened around his instead. We have a problem. Dae-jung's voice went hard. Yeongnim, gray sedan, 2 o'clock, black motorcycle, 11 o'clock, both circling. Jaleesa's relief curdled. How do you know? Registration flags. Dae-jung pulled up a tablet, showed Gyeong-si. Same patterns as your uncle's remaining crew. They're running reconnaissance. Genjang. Gyeong-si's curse was quiet, lethal. He pulled out his phone, rapid-fire Korean into it. Neo-hee dul, namjog jinapro, Saemyeong buk. U2, south entrance. 3 men, north. He was calling in more teams. Jaleesa watched him transform from the man who'd held her hair this morning into something else entirely. Calculated, commanding, terrifying. Timeline? He asked Dae-jung. 3 minutes before they box him in, maybe less. Michael was turning toward the building entrance, about to disappear inside where there were too many exits, too many blind spots. I'm going out there. Jaleesa reached for the door handle. Gyeong-si's hand locked around her wrist like a vice. And way. No, he'll recognize me. He'll come willingly. She met those obsidian eyes, saw the absolute refusal there. But if Dae-jung just grabs him, Michael will fight. He'll make a scene, and those men will know something's happening. She watched him calculate, watched him hate that she was right. Dae-jung stays within arm's reach. His grip tightened until it hurt. You walk straight to your brother. You say nothing to anyone else. You get him to the car in under 60 seconds. His voice dropped to something raw. And if shooting starts, you hit the ground. Immediately. Do you understand me? The fear in his voice made her chest ache. I understand. You're carrying our child into a potential kill zone. His forehead pressed to hers briefly, and she felt him shaking. If anything happens to either of you, I'll burn this entire city down. She believed him. Dae-jung was already out, opening her door. Seoul's morning air hit her, cold and sharp, carrying the smell of tteokbokki from a nearby cart. Students streamed past in their uniforms, laughing, completely oblivious. Michael was 10 feet from the building entrance. Michael! She called it in English, letting her voice carry across the courtyard. Her brother spun, and the relief on his face was so pure it physically hurt. Isa! Her childhood nickname. Oh, thank God! He was running toward her, arms open, and she saw Dae-jung shift to intercept. Saw Michael's expression change from relief to confusion when he registered the man in tactical gear. It's okay. She stepped between them, hands up. Michael, he's with me. It's okay. With you? Michael's voice rose as he took in Dae-jung's gear, the visible gun, the SUV with blacked-out windows. Jaleesa, what the hell? Mom's losing her mind. You stopped answering calls. I tracked your phone to Gangnam and... His eyes were wild now. Are you in trouble? Did these people kidnap you? Isa, blink twice if... We need to leave right now. She grabbed his arm, started pulling toward the SUV. 20 seconds. They had 20 seconds. I'll explain everything, but you need to trust me and get in the... I'm not getting in some cartel car. He dug his heels in, all 6'3" of stubborn Martinez pride. Not until you tell me who these people are and why you're... Michael Alejandro Martinez. She used their mother's voice, sharp, furious, terrified. I am 8 weeks pregnant. There are men here who want to kill us both, and if you don't get in that car right now, I swear to God I will tell Mommy about Sofia Rodriguez." His face went white. Sofia Rodriguez was the girlfriend their parents didn't know about. "You wouldn't try me." Whatever he saw in her face convinced him. He let her pull him forward, Dae-jung flanking them with one hand inside his jacket. 15 feet from the SUV, the motorcycle's engine roared to life. "Down." Dae-jung shoved them both behind a parked Honda, and Jaleesa hit the pavement hard, Michael's body covering hers. Pain bloomed in her hip, and all she could think was, the baby, the baby, the baby. The motorcycle jumped the curb, engine screaming. Students scattered. Someone was screaming, and through the chaos she heard the SUV's door slam open. Gyeong-si emerged with a gun in each hand. He looked like death incarnate, all lethal grace and cold fury, dragon tattoos stark against his throat, geometric patterns on his arms, seeming to move in the morning light. He barked something in Korean sharp enough to cut glass. The motorcycle skidded to a stop 5 feet away. The rider's hand went to his jacket, reaching for a weapon. "Sonjepgo!" Gyeong-si's gun was aimed at the rider's head. "Hands up!" "Jigum dangjang!" "Right now!" The rider froze. Behind him, the gray sedan's doors opened, 2 men emerging, but more black SUVs were already there, boxing them in with precision that spoke of military training. Gyeong-si's men moved like a coordinated strike team, weapons drawn, exits blocked. This wasn't protection. This was a planned operation. He'd known this would happen. "Museup dwe," one of the sedan men shouted. "On your knees! Neoga museup dwe Byong-sina." Gyeong-si's voice was arctic. "You get on your knees, you idiot." Then, in English, "You come to my territory? Threaten my family?" His gun never wavered. The 3 men dropped to their knees, hands behind their heads. They knew who they were dealing with. Everyone did. "What the—" Michael was staring at the scene, at the armed men, at Gyeong-si commanding absolute control. His hands were shaking, adrenaline finally hitting. "Jaleesa, who the fuck is that?" "Language," she said absurdly, like it mattered. Her hip throbbed where she'd hit the ground, and her hands instinctively covered her stomach. Gyeong-si's eyes found hers across the chaos, and she saw his scan, checking for blood, for injury. When he saw her hands on her stomach, something cracked in his expression. He barked orders in Korean, fast, brutal. His men moved in, zip-tying the captured gang members with efficient violence. Then he was crossing to them, gun still in one hand, and Jaleesa felt Michael tense. "Stay behind me," her brother said, trying to shift in front of her despite his shaking hands. "Michael, don't!" But Gyeong-si was already crouching to their level behind the Honda, and up close he looked even more dangerous. The dragon seemed alive on his throat. Ink disappeared into his collar, his sleeves, stories of violence written on his skin. "You must be Michael." His English was perfect, barely accented. "I'm Choi Gyeong-si." He holstered one gun, kept the other ready. "And we need to leave. Campus security will be here in 90 seconds. I'm not going anywhere with you." Michael's arm came around Jaleesa, protective despite his trembling. "Not until someone explains why my sister is mixed up with—" His eyes traveled over the tattoos, the guns, the controlled chaos. "With whatever crime boss shit this is." "Michael," Jaleesa started. "This," Gyeong-si said quietly, dangerously, "is me keeping your sister alive, keeping you from being tortured for information about your father's testimony 15 years ago." His gaze locked with Michael's. "This is me protecting my family." Family. The word detonated between them. Michael's arm tightened around her. "Your family? What?" He looked at Jaleesa, and she watched him notice things, her hand on her stomach, the exhaustion, the way she was leaning toward Gyeong-si despite the fear. Isa. Isa. What's he talking about? And there it was, the moment she'd been dreading. Michael. She took a breath. "There's a lot I need to tell you, about where I've been the last 3 months, about—" Her eyes met Gyeongsi's, and she saw vulnerability beneath the violence. About us. Us? Michael's voice cracked. There's an us? With him? He gestured at Gyeongsi like he was something poisonous. Jalisa, he's got to be at least 42, Gyeongsi supplied calmly. 18 years older than your sister. Yes. And you're okay with this? Michael looked like he might vomit. He's I don't even know what, but he's clearly dangerous and the age gap is insane and... Yongnim. Daejung's voice cut through. Big brother. We need to move, now. He was right. Students were filming on phones, sirens wailing in the distance, and they were sitting ducks. Please. Jalisa grabbed Michael's face, forced him to look at her. I know this is insane. I know you have questions, but right now, I need you to trust me and get in the car. Michael stared at her, and she watched him process. Really process. The way her hand kept drifting to her stomach. The way Gyeongsi was positioned to shield them both. The men who'd been seconds from attacking now zip-tied on the ground. Are you safe? He asked hoarsely. With him, actually safe? Jalisa thought about the surveillance photos, the manipulation, the lies. Then she thought about Gyeongsi holding her hair this morning, dropping to his knees at news of the baby, the raw terror in his voice when Michael was in danger. Sí, she whispered. Estoy segura. Yes, I'm safe. Michael didn't look convinced, but he let them pull him up. Let Daejung guide them to the SUV while Gyeongsi barked final orders, something about taking the captured men to a secondary location. She didn't ask what that meant. Gyeongsi handed her into the back seat with devastating gentleness, and she winced when her hip hit the leather. You're hurt. His hands were immediately on her, checking. Yodiga dashiosyo? Where are you hurt? Just bruised. She caught his hands. The baby's fine. I'm fine. Some of the terror left his eyes. Michael climbed in beside her, looking shell-shocked. The SUV peeled out before his door even closed, merging into traffic with 3 other vehicles forming a protective convoy. For a long moment, nobody spoke. Just the sound of Seoul traffic, sirens fading behind them, Michael's ragged breathing. Then her brother turned to Gyeongsi with murder written across his face. If you hurt my sister, he said in careful, deliberate English, I don't care how many guns you have. I don't care what you run. I will find a way to end you. Gyeongsi held his gaze, didn't flinch. If I hurt your sister, Michael C., I'll hand you the knife myself. The sincerity in his voice, the absolute certainty, made something crack in Jalisa's chest. Because here was the truth she'd been dancing around. Choi Gyeong-si might have manipulated her into his world, but somewhere between the lies and the surveillance photos and the impossible age gap, he'd stopped playing a part. He'd fallen. Completely. And God help her, so had she. Where are we going? Michael asked, tension still vibrating through him. Somewhere we can talk. Gyeongsi's hand found hers again, hidden between their bodies where Michael couldn't see. His thumb traced apologetic circles on her palm. Somewhere safe, all of us. And then, Michael said, voice hard, you're going to explain everything. Why my sister is caught up with the Korean Mafia, why there are people trying to kill us, and what the hell you meant by family. Jalisa's free hand pressed against her stomach, and she met Gyeongsi's eyes. Saw the question there. Do we tell him? She nodded slightly. Michael deserved the truth. All of it. Gray, Gyeongsi said quietly. Yes, everything, I promise. The SUV merged onto the expressway, carrying them toward whatever came next, toward the conversation that would change everything. Toward the moment Michael learned his sister wasn't just involved with a crime lord, she was pregnant with his child. Jalisa closed her eyes, exhaustion crashing over her. Her hip throbbed, her stomach churned. The baby inside her was still just a collection of cells, but already it had survived so much. Betrayal, violence, the collision of 2 impossible worlds. Aguanta, bebé, she whispered under her breath. Hold on, baby. Ya casi llegamos. We're almost there, but where was there? Safety? Truth? Some kind of twisted, happily ever after? Or just another beautiful lie? The question hung in the air as Soul blurred past the windows, and Jaleesa realized she was about to find out if love built on manipulation could ever become something real. If a monster could become a man. If an impossible age gap and a criminal empire and a baby on the way could somehow, against all odds, turn into a family. She squeezed Gyeongsi's hand once, and he squeezed back, a promise neither of them knew if they could keep. But they were going to try. God help them. They were going to try. The safe house was in Pyeongchang-dong, one of Seoul's most exclusive neighborhoods, where old money lived behind high walls and cameras that cost more than cars. The Hanok-style estate looked traditional from the outside, all curved roof tiles and wooden beams, but inside it was pure luxury. Heated marble floors, minimalist furniture in cream and black, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking a private garden where cherry trees were just beginning to bud. Michael stood in the middle of the living room like he'd been dropped into an alternate reality, still wearing his University of Miami hoodie, still looking painfully American and completely out of place. "Your phone," Dae-jung said, hand extended. "I need it." "What?" "No." Michael clutched it protectively. "This is the only way I can—" "They can track it," Gyeongsi cut in. His jacket was off now, gun holster visible, and his tattoos seemed to command the space. "The men who tried to take you today, they're already triangulating every call you've made, every location you've pinged." He nodded to Dae-jung. "Give him a secure phone. Route it through our network." Michael reluctantly handed over his iPhone, and Dae-jung disappeared into another room. "Sit," Gyeongsi said, gesturing to the low table surrounded by floor cushions. "Please." The please seemed to cost him something. Michael sat slowly, like he expected the floor to open up beneath him. Jaleesa lowered herself onto a cushion across from him, and pain shot through her hip. Sharp enough to make her gasp, Gyeongsi was immediately there, crouching beside her. "Eodiga, apayo?" "Where does it hurt?" "It's fine." "It's not fine." His hands were already lifting the edge of her shirt, examining the bruise that had darkened to deep purple across her hip bone. His jaw clenched. "Jenjang, this needs ice, and you need—" "What I need," Jaleesa said, pulling her shirt down and very aware of Michael watching, "is to talk to my brother. After ice." Gyeongsi's tone left no room for argument. He called something in rapid Korean toward the kitchen. A woman appeared, older, kind-faced, wearing a traditional hanbok. She bowed slightly, disappeared, returned with ice wrapped in a soft towel and a ceramic cup of what smelled like ginger tea. "Gamsahamnida, Ajuma," Jaleesa said quietly. "Thank you, Auntie." The woman smiled, patted her shoulder, and left them alone. Gyeongsi pressed the ice against Jaleesa's hip with one hand, the other moving unconsciously to her stomach. Brief, protective, gentle. Michael's eyes tracked the movement like a hawk. "Why do you keep touching her stomach like that?" The question detonated in the silence. Jaleesa met Gyeongsi's eyes, saw the question there. "However you want to do this. Your choice." She took a shaky breath. "Michael, there's something I need to tell you. Actually, there are a lot of things, but you need to let me explain without interrupting. Can you do that?" Her brother's hands were still trembling slightly, aftershock from the attack. "How bad is it?" "Pretty bad." Her voice cracked. "Bastante malo, hermanito." "Pretty bad, little brother." Michael's jaw clenched, but he nodded. So Jaleesa started talking. She told him about that night in Itaewon 4 months ago, witnessing a murder in the alley behind a club, being dragged to Gyeongsi's office by men who would have killed her if she'd screamed. She told him about negotiating in Korean that had shocked everyone, about becoming a translator to stay alive, about 3 months of forced proximity that became something else entirely. "He's 42, she said, watching Michael's face darken. 18 years older than me. He runs Seoul's underworld. He's dangerous and morally complicated and everything Dad would hate." She swallowed hard, "And I fell in love with him anyway. I'm not done." Her voice was steady now, resigned. "Yesterday morning, I found surveillance photos in his desk. Of you, of Mommy, of our whole family." She watched Gyeongsi's face, saw the pain there. Dated from 3 months before I ever came to Seoul, before Yonsei accepted me, before any of this. Michael went very still. "He was watching us? Before you even—" "He orchestrated everything," Jaleesa confirmed. "My scholarship to Yonsei, the night in Itaewon, all of it. It was planned." Her brother was on his feet so fast the table shook. "You stalked her family. You manipulated her into—" He lunged forward and Dae-jung materialized from somewhere, but Gyeongsi held up a hand. "Gwen Chanha." "It's okay." He stood slowly, hands visible, non-threatening. "You want to hit me, Michael C? Do it. I won't defend myself." "Don't you dare!" Jaleesa said, struggling up despite the ice pack falling. "Michael, stop. There's more you need to hear." "More?" Her brother's laugh had a slightly hysterical edge. What could possibly be worse than— His eyes followed her hand as it pressed protectively against her stomach. She watched understanding dawn across his face in slow motion. Confusion, then disbelief, then horror. "No." His voice was barely a whisper. "No, Issa. Tell me you're not— 8 weeks. The words came out small. "Maybe 9. I found out yesterday morning." Michael sat down like someone had cut his strings. For a long moment, he just stared at his hands. Big hands. Basketball player. Hands that were shaking badly now. When he looked up, his eyes were wet. "Does Mommy know?" "Nobody knows except you and him, and you're keeping it." Not a question. A statement of fact because he knew his sister. "See? With him." Michael's voice was hollow. "You're having a baby with a man who stalked our family, who manipulated you, who's old enough to be—" He stopped, jaw working. "Issa, this is insane. This whole situation is jodidamente loco." "Fucking crazy." "Lo sé." "I know." Tears burned her eyes. "Lo sé, Michael. But there's more you need to understand about why he did it." She told him about their father, about Roberto Martinez's testimony 15 years ago against a massive criminal organization, about the conviction that had put away dozens of men, about the loyalists who'd been hunting anyone connected to that testimony ever since. "Dad testified against Gyeongsi's uncle," she said carefully, "the man who ran the organization before Gyeongsi took over. And yes, Gyeongsi brought me here because of that connection. He wanted revenge for what that testimony cost him." Michael's head snapped up. What did it cost him? Everything. Gyeongsi spoke for the first time since she'd started, voice rough. "My father's empire, my older brother's life, my mother, she never recovered from losing my brother. She died 2 years later." His hands clenched at his sides. "Your father's testimony was supposed to take down my uncle. Instead, it destroyed my entire family." "So you decided to destroy his," Michael said bitterly. "Yes. No hedging. No excuses. That was the plan. Bring Roberto Martinez's daughter to Seoul. Make her fall for me. Break her. Send her home destroyed so your father would know what it felt like to lose a child." His voice cracked slightly. "But your sister refused to cooperate with that plan." "What does that mean?" "It means," Jaleesa said softly, "that I broke him first." Michael looked between them, trying to understand, trying to reconcile the manipulation with the way Gyeongsi's hand kept finding Jaleesa's, the way he positioned himself to shield her, the raw emotion in his voice. "The men watching our family," Jaleesa continued, "those weren't enemies. Those were his men. Gyeongsi's had a security team protecting you for 3 years. Every potential threat he eliminated before it reached Miami." 3 years. Michael's voice rose. "He's been watching us for 3 years." "Your father's testimony made you targets," Gyeongsi said. "My uncle had loyalists, men who wanted revenge. They've been monitoring your family since the trial ended. I've been monitoring them, staying one step ahead, keeping you safe." "You expect me to thank you?" Michael stood again, pacing now. "You manipulated my sister, got her pregnant, and now you want credit for protecting us from threats that only exist because of your world? I expect nothing. Gyeongsi's voice was granite. I'm giving you facts. What you do with them is your choice. The tension in the room was suffocating. Jaleesa wanted to mediate, to smooth things over, but her hip was throbbing and exhaustion was crashing over her in waves. Michael stopped pacing, pulled out the new phone Dae-jung had given him, stared at it for a long moment. I need to call Dad, he said finally. No. Gyeongsi's voice was sharp. Not yet, not until... He needs to know his daughter is pregnant and in danger. Michael's voice was steel. He needs to know what you did. Michael, wait, Jaleesa started. But her brother was already dialing, stepping toward the garden for privacy. Dae-jung moved to follow, and Gyeongsi nodded permission. Through the glass doors, Jaleesa watched her brother's shoulders hunch, watched him press a hand to his face as he talked. She couldn't hear the words, but she could imagine them. Dad, you need to sit down. Issa's in Seoul with the Korean Mafia. She's pregnant. It's bad, Dad. It's really bad. This is going to be a disaster, she whispered. Gyeongsi's arms came around her from behind, and she let herself lean back against his chest despite everything. Ara. I know. His lips pressed against her temple. But we'll handle it, together. My father testified against your uncle. Your family was destroyed because of him. And now... Her voice broke. Now we're having a baby together. How is that supposed to work? I don't know, he admitted. But Jaleesa, what I said before, about your father's testimony destroying everything. I was angry for years, blamed him, but... He turned her to face him. My uncle deserved what he got. The organization was evil. Your father did the right thing, even though it cost him everything too. He had to leave his job, relocate your family, live looking over his shoulder. He sacrificed for justice. And you're just okay with that now? No. His voice was honest, raw. I'm still angry at what I lost, but I understand why he did it. And his hand covered hers on her stomach. If protecting our child meant testifying against every person I've ever known, I'd do it. Immediately. So how can I blame your father for the same choice? The vulnerability in his face made her chest ache. The garden door slid open. Michael stood there, phone clutched in his white-knuckled grip, face pale. I told Dad everything, he said. He's booking a flight. He'll be here in... He checked the phone. 36 hours. Jaleesa's world tilted. Michael, no. Mommy's coming too. Oh God, both of them. Her terrifying mother and her heartbroken father, flying into a war zone to confront the man who'd manipulated their daughter. Your parents can't come here, Gyeongsi said, voice urgent. The moment Roberto Martinez boards a plane to Seoul, every enemy I have will know. They'll see it as an opportunity. Then protect them, Michael shot back. Like you claim you've been doing all along. Or was that another convenient lie? Michael, please, Jaleesa started. No, Issa. Her brother's voice cracked. You want me to just accept this? That you're pregnant by some crime boss who's practically Dad's age? That you're caught up in something that got people trying to kill me today? His hands were shaking again. I can't just... He broke off, pressing his palms to his eyes. Jaleesa moved toward him, ignoring the pain in her hip. Her baby brother, who was supposed to be safe in Miami playing basketball, now standing in a safe house in Seoul trying to process that his sister's life had become a crime thriller. Lo siento, she whispered, pulling him into a hug. Lo siento mucho, hermanito. I'm so sorry, little brother. Michael's arms came around her, and she felt him shaking. Are you safe? Actually safe. Not what you want to believe, but the truth. She thought about the surveillance photos, the manipulation, the lies that had brought them here. Then she thought about Gyeongsi dropping to his knees when he learned about the baby, the terror in his voice when Michael was in danger, the way he'd positioned his body to shield them both during the attack. Sí, she said. Estoy segura. Yes, I'm safe. Michael pulled back, looked at Gyeongsi over her shoulder. 36 hours. My parents land in 36 hours, and you better have a plan to keep them alive. Because if anything happens to them, if my father gets hurt because you dragged us into your war, I will burn your entire world down." The threat should have been laughable. A 19-year-old college kid threatening Seoul's most powerful crime lord. But Gyeong-si just nodded. "Ara, I know. Gureso. I will." Some kind of understanding passed between them. Not forgiveness, not friendship, but maybe the beginning of something. Two men who loved Jalisa, trying to figure out how to be on the same side. "I need to lie down," Jalisa said suddenly. Exhaustion was crushing her, the baby demanding rest, her hip screaming. "I need to—" Gyeong-si caught her as her knees buckled. "Jalisa, ya, I'm okay, just tired." But she wasn't okay. She was pregnant and terrified, and her parents were about to fly into a war zone, and her baby brother had almost died today, and nothing was okay. "Bedroom," Gyeong-si said, lifting her despite her protests. "Now." He carried her through the safe house, Michael following with worry etched on his face, and Jalisa let herself surrender to the exhaustion. Just for a moment. Just until she found the strength to face what was coming. Because in 36 hours, Roberto and Marisol Martinez would land in Seoul. In 36 hours, all hell would break loose. And somehow, they all had to survive it. As Gyeong-si laid her on the bed, his hand covered her stomach one more time. "Uriga jikyojolge," he whispered. "We'll protect you." "Yaksokai, I promise." Jalisa wanted desperately to believe him, but promises, she'd learned, were fragile things in a world built on violence, and this one might cost them everything. Jalisa woke to voices arguing in Korean outside the bedroom door. Harsh, fast, the kind of conversation where someone was about to get shot or promoted. With Gyeong-si's world, it was hard to tell the difference. Pale afternoon light filtered through the paper screens. She'd slept through most of the day, her body demanding rest, even as her mind had spun with nightmares. Michael bleeding on campus, her parents' plane exploding, Gyeong-si walking away with their baby in his arms while she screamed. Her hand went immediately to her stomach, still flat, still hiding the secret that had turned her entire world inside out. The arguing stopped. Footsteps retreated. Then the door slid open carefully, and Gyeong-si appeared with a tray. Juk, the Korean rice porridge he'd made her before when she was sick, and that ginger tea that somehow always settled her stomach. "You should have woken me," she said, struggling to sit up. Her hip protested, but the pain had dulled to a manageable ache. "You needed sleep." He set the tray on the bedside table, crouched beside the bed so they were eye level. Dark circles shadowed his eyes. He clearly hadn't slept at all. The dragon tattoo on his neck looked almost alive in the dim light. "Both of you did." His hand moved to her stomach and she let him, this gesture that was becoming automatic between them, this unconscious claiming of the life they'd created. What was the arguing about? Your parents' arrival. He sat back on his heels, exhaustion evident in every line of his body. They land in 30 hours. Daejung wants to intercept them at Incheon, bring them straight here under heavy guard. I disagree. Why? She reached for the tea, the warm ceramic cup grounding her. Because your father was a federal witness who helped dismantle a major criminal organization. The moment he boards that plane, every intelligence agency in 3 countries will flag it. Gyeong-si's jaw clenched. Korean National Intelligence, Interpol, probably the FBI. They'll all be watching to see what Roberto Martinez is doing in Seoul. So if you send armed men to collect him, we announce to the world that he's under my protection, which makes him an even bigger target. His hand found hers, and puts a spotlight on all of us. Jalisa sipped the tea, ginger and honey warming her throat. So what's the alternative? We let him come to us. I'll have eyes on them from the moment they clear customs, but from a distance. Track them, monitor for threats, intervene only if necessary. He met her eyes. It's riskier for them in the short term, safer for everyone long term. You want my parents to navigate Seoul alone while being hunted? Her voice was flat. "No. Sharp. Definite. I want to respect that your father survived 15 years with a target on his back. He knows how to move carefully, and Roberto Martinez was CIA before he went private sector. The man has tradecraft most of my men would envy." It made horrible practical sense. It also made her want to throw up. She set down the tea, pressed both hands to her face. "He's going to hate you. When he gets here, when he learns everything, he's going to look at you and see the nephew of the man who destroyed our lives." "I know." Gyeongsi's voice was steady, resigned. "I've made peace with that." "Have you?" She dropped her hands. "Because my father is a good man. He did the right thing, and it cost him his career, his safety, years of looking over his shoulder. And now his daughter is pregnant by—" Her voice cracked. "How is any of this fair to him?" "It's not. Simple, honest. Nothing about this is fair. But Jaleesa—" He took both her hands. "Your father chose justice over safety. He put away men who deserved it, even knowing the cost. I respect that." His voice dropped. "Even though it destroyed my family, I respect it. Because it was the right choice." The words settled between them, heavy with meaning. "Tell him that," she said, "when he gets here. Don't try to justify the manipulation or the age gap or any of it. Just tell him you respect what he did, that you understand why he did it. Start there." Gyeongsi nodded slowly, and she watched him file it away. This man who commanded empires, taking advice on how to talk to his pregnant girlfriend's father. The absurdity of it would have been funny if it wasn't so terrifying. "Where's Michael?" "Gaming room with Daejung and Minjun. Your brother has been trash-talking my men in Spanish for the past 3 hours. A slight smile tugged at Gyeongsi's mouth. "They have no idea what he's saying, but they're absolutely certain it's insulting." "Despite everything," Jaleesa laughed. "That sounded exactly like Michael." "Eat," Gyeongsi said, pushing the juke toward her. "You barely had anything yesterday." She obeyed, the warm rice porridge settling her anxious stomach. But her mind kept spinning forward. 30 hours until her parents arrived. 30 hours to figure out how to explain the inexplicable. "What happens after?" she asked quietly. "After my parents get here, after we survive whatever's coming, what happens to us?" Gyeongsi was quiet for a long moment, and she watched emotions flicker across his face, emotions he usually controlled so carefully. "What do you want to happen?" he finally asked. "I don't know." She set down the spoon, appetite gone. "Yesterday morning I was planning to leave. Get on a plane, go back to Miami, figure out how to raise a baby alone and never speak to you again." Her hand pressed against her stomach. "Now Michael is here, my parents are coming, and I'm in a safe house with the man who manipulated me into loving him, so I honestly don't know." "Did I?" His voice was soft, dangerous. "Manipulate you into loving me?" She met his eyes. "I don't know anymore. That's the problem. I don't know what was real and what was strategy. I don't know if you actually fell for me or if you're just that good at playing a part." The words landed like blows, and she watched him flinch. "Then let me be absolutely clear." He shifted closer, his hands framing her face with devastating gentleness. "Everything before Itaewon was manipulation. The scholarship, the placement at Yonsei, even the murder you witnessed. I orchestrated all of it to get you into my world." His thumb brushed her cheekbone. "That part is true. That part I can't take back." "I know. But the moment you started speaking Korean in my office, the moment you negotiated instead of begging, something broke in me. You weren't supposed to be clever. You weren't supposed to look me in the eye and offer a deal like you had any power." His voice roughened. "You were supposed to be terrified, broken, easy to control. So I ruined your revenge plot by being competent?" She would have laughed if her heart wasn't cracking open. "How inconvenient." "Jaleesa." Her name was rough in his throat. "You want to know when it became real? The first time you corrected my Spanish pronunciation and laughed when I got it wrong. Like I wasn't someone to fear. Like I was just a person." his forehead pressed to hers. "The night you fell asleep reading on my couch, and I spent 3 hours watching you breathe, terrified you'd wake up and see how much I already cared. The morning you made me Colombian coffee and said it reminded you of your grandmother, and I realized I'd do anything, to see you smile like that again." Tears burned her eyes. "How do I trust that? How do I know you're not just—" "You don't, not yet." His voice cracked. "But I'll prove it. Every single day. For the rest of our lives, if you let me. Por favor, mi reina. Please, my queen. Let me prove it." The Spanish phrase, the one he'd whispered against her skin on their best nights, nearly broke her. She kissed him, hard, desperate, tasting salt from her own tears and something that might have been his. A sharp knock shattered the moment. Daejung's voice through the door, urgent. "Yong nim, sangwang bal sang." Boss. Situation. Gyeongsi was on his feet instantly, that deadly focus snapping into place. "Moya, what is it?" Daejung opened the door, tablet in hand, face grim. Michael just received a call from his father. They moved up their flight, landed 20 minutes ago on a commercial connection through Tokyo. He pulled up flight records. Korean Air 042. They're already through customs. The room went silent except for Jalisa's sharp inhale. Jenjang. Damn. Gyeongsi's voice was deadly calm, which meant he was furious. "Why wasn't I informed they changed flights?" "They booked under different names. Your father-in-law still has federal contacts." Daejung's expression was almost impressed. "Roberto Martinez knows how to disappear when he wants to." Jalisa's heart was racing, hands trembling. Her parents were here. Now. Not in 30 hours. Now. "Where are they?" Gyeongsi asked. "Michael is on the phone with them now. They want the address." Daejung looked at Jalisa. "Your brother is asking permission to give it to them." Oh God, this was happening. Her parents were in Seoul, and Michael was about to send them straight into a safe house full of armed criminals to confront the man who'd gotten their daughter pregnant. "How long until they can get here?" Her voice came out thin, reedy. "If they take a taxi from Incheon, 2 hours in traffic." Daejung checked his watch. "Maybe 90 minutes if they're lucky." 90 minutes. Jalisa looked down at herself. Rumpled clothes, sleep-mussed braids, looking exactly like a woman who'd been in a crime lord's bed because that's exactly what she was. Nausea hit suddenly, violently. She barely made it to the bathroom before her stomach revolted, and then Gyeongsi was there again, holding her braids, pressing a cool cloth to her neck, murmuring soft Korean she couldn't quite parse through the panic. When it passed, she was shaking, full-body tremors that had nothing to do with morning sickness and everything to do with the fact that her parents, her terrifying parents, would be here in 90 minutes. "Gwen-chan, huh?" "It's okay." Gyeongsi helped her rinse her mouth, his hands steady even as hers shook. "Nega yopa iso." "I'm here with you. My mother is going to kill you," she whispered. Marisol Martinez once made a grown man cry for looking at me wrong at my quinceañera. "And you didn't just look. You got me pregnant." His Adam's apple bobbed. "Then I'll die bravely." Despite the terror clawing at her throat, Jalisa almost smiled, because there was something darkly funny about watching Seoul's most feared crime lord genuinely afraid of her 5'2" Cuban mother. "Tell Michael to give them the address," Gyeongsi called through the door, "and tell your parents." He looked at Jalisa. "Tell them we're ready to talk. All of us. The truth. Everything." Jalisa heard Michael's voice through the door, rapid Spanish into the phone. Then, "They're coming. Mommy says to tell Issa she loves her, and to tell you—" Michael's voice went flat. "That if you hurt her, there won't be enough left of you to bury." Gyeongsi's mouth quirked. "Your mother has excellent priorities. Get dressed," he said to Jalisa. "I'll have the main room prepared. And Jalisa?" He pulled her close one more time, and she felt him trembling slightly. "Whatever happens in the next few hours, whatever your parents say or do, I need you to know that I love you. Te amo con todo mi corazón. I love you with all my heart." and I will spend the rest of my life earning the right to be this baby's father. The Spanish, her heart language, made it unbearably real. Yo también te amo, she whispered against his chest. I love you too, even though you're an idiot who manipulated me. Lo sé, mi amor. I know, my love. I'm an idiot who will spend forever making it up to you. They stood there for a moment, holding each other, knowing that in 90 minutes everything would change. Then Halisa pulled away and started getting ready for war. 87 minutes later, Jalisa stood in the main room wearing clean clothes and fresh braids, hands pressed protectively over her stomach to stop them from shaking. Michael stood to her left, looking guilty and defiant in equal measure. Gyeongsi stood to her right, and the space between them felt like a chasm and a lifeline all at once. Dae-jung and 3 other men were positioned around the room, not threatening exactly, but definitely armed and ready. Then they heard it. A car door slamming outside, rapid Spanish, her mother's voice, sharp with worry, footsteps on gravel, purposeful and fast. The door opened, and Roberto and Marisol Martinez walked into the room like avenging angels. Her father moved like someone who'd spent years looking over his shoulder, eyes cataloging every exit, every person, every potential threat. He was grayer than she remembered, lines deeper around his eyes, but he still carried himself like the federal agent he'd once been. His hand stayed near his hip, and Jalisa knew without question he was armed. Her mother was smaller, fiercer, dark eyes blazing as they swept the room and landed on her daughter. Mia! Baby girl. Marisol's voice cracked, and she was already moving, crossing the room in quick strides. Jalisa met her halfway, and her mother's hands were immediately checking for injuries, touching her face, her arms looking for bruises or cuts or any sign of harm. ¿Estás bien? ¿Te lastimó? Dime la verdad. Are you okay? Did he hurt you? Tell me the truth. Estoy bien, mami, lo prometo. I'm fine, Mom, I promise. But her mother was already seeing it, the way Halisa's hand kept drifting to her stomach, the exhaustion under her eyes, the way she kept glancing at Gyeongsi like he was gravity and she was still learning to stand on her own. Dios mío, Marisol whispered, cupping Halisa's face. Es verdad, todo. My God, it's true. All of it. See, Mommy. Her mother's eyes filled with tears, fury and heartbreak and love all tangled together. Then she turned, and Jalisa watched her take in Choi Gyeong-si for the first time. The tattoos covering his arms, disappearing into his collar. The expensive clothes that couldn't hide the violence in his bones. The way he stood perfectly still, hands visible, non-threatening but radiating danger like heat off asphalt. The fact that he was clearly, obviously, undeniably too old for her daughter. "Two," Marisol said. "You." Her voice was quiet, deadly. "You're the one who touched my daughter." Not a question, an accusation. "Si, señora." "Yes, ma'am." Gyeongsi's Spanish was careful, respectful. "I'm Choi Gyeong-si, and I—" "You nothing." Marisol's voice cut like a blade. "You don't speak unless I ask you a question. ¿Entiendes?" "Understand?" "Si, señora." Roberto Martinez had been silent this whole time, but now he moved, stepping forward, and Halisa saw her father truly look at Gyeongsi, saw the moment recognition flickered. "You're the nephew," Roberto said quietly. "Choi Jae-sung was your uncle." "Yes, sir." Gyeongsi switched to English. "He was. And your brother, Choi Min-seok, he died 2 weeks after the trial ended." Roberto's voice was steady, but Jalisa heard the weight in it. "Car accident, though we both know it wasn't an accident." "No, sir, it wasn't." The admission hung in the air, acknowledgement of the blood between them, the history that had brought them to this impossible moment. "Your uncle was a monster," Roberto continued. "He trafficked children, ran drugs through ports that killed thousands. My testimony helped put away 37 members of that organization." His eyes never left Gyeongsi's. "I'd do it again, even knowing what it cost." "I know, sir." Gyeongsi's voice was steady. "And you should, because my uncle was a monster. He deserved what he got. He paused. But my brother didn't. My mother didn't. They were collateral damage, and for years I blamed you for that. And now? Roberto's hand was still near his hip. You brought my daughter here for revenge, got her pregnant, put my entire family in danger. So tell me, Choi Gyung-si, do you still blame me? The room was so quiet, Jaleesa could hear her own heartbeat. No, sir, Gyung-si said. I blame myself for using your daughter as a weapon, for manipulating her into my world. His voice roughened. For falling in love with her and being too selfish to let her go. Marisol made a sound. Disgust or disbelief, Jaleesa couldn't tell. But Roberto just studied Gyung-si for a long moment. Then, how old are you? 42, sir. My daughter is 24. You're 18 years older than her, almost twice her age. Yes, sir. And you got her pregnant knowing that, knowing her family would hate this, knowing it was wrong. Papi, Jaleesa started, Kalate, mija. Hush, daughter. Roberto's voice was gentle but firm. Let him answer. Gyung-si met her father's eyes. I didn't plan to get her pregnant, sir, but you're right. The age gap is wrong. Your family has every reason to hate me, and I knew all of that. His hands clenched at his sides. But I love your daughter, completely. And I'm going to spend the rest of my life trying to be worthy of her and the child we're bringing into this world. Love? Marisol spat the word. You don't know what love is. Love doesn't manipulate. Love doesn't lie. Love doesn't... Mami, por favor. Jaleesa stepped forward, voice shaking. Let me explain. Let me tell you everything, and then you can decide what to do. Both of you. But please, just listen. Her parents looked at her, really looked. Saw the exhaustion, the fear, the way her hand stayed protectively over her stomach. Saw their daughter caught between worlds, trying to hold everything together. Okay, mija, Roberto said softly. Cuéntanos todo. Tell us everything. So Jaleesa took a breath and started talking. She told them about Itaewon, about the forced proximity, about falling for someone she knew she shouldn't. She told them about the surveillance photos, the manipulation, the revenge plot that had become something else. And she told them about the baby. When she finished, the silence was devastating. Then Marisol moved, crossing to Gyung-si in 3 quick strides. And before anyone could react, her hand cracked across his face with a sound like a gunshot. Mommy! Jaleesa lunged forward, but Michael caught her. Gyung-si didn't move, didn't defend himself, just took it, a red mark blooming across his cheek. That, Marisol said in English, sharp as broken glass, is for touching my daughter without earning the right. She stepped back, eyes blazing. And if you ever hurt her or that baby, I will end you myself. Entiendes? Sí, señora, Gyung-si said quietly. Entiendo. Yes, ma'am, I understand. Roberto was watching all of this with an unreadable expression. Then he turned to Jaleesa. Tú lo amas? You love him? Sí, papi. Her voice cracked. Aunque no debería. Even though I shouldn't. Yell. Te ama de verdad? And him, does he truly love you? Jaleesa looked at Gyung-si, at the man who'd orchestrated her world just to destroy it, who'd fallen apart when he learned about the baby, who was standing perfectly still letting her mother hit him because he knew he deserved it. Sí, she whispered. Creo que sí. Yes, I think he does. Roberto studied them both for a long moment. Then slowly he extended his hand to Gyung-si. If you're going to be the father of my grandchild, he said quietly, then we need to talk, really talk, about protection, about the threats we're all facing, about how to keep my family safe. His grip tightened when Gyung-si took his hand. But know this, you hurt my daughter, and CIA training or not, I will find a way to destroy everything you love. Comprendes? Sí, señor. Comprendo perfectamente. Yes, sir. I understand perfectly. It wasn't forgiveness, it wasn't acceptance, but it was a beginning. And as Jaleesa watched her father and the man she loved shake hands while her mother glared murder at them both, she thought, maybe we can survive this. Maybe love built on lies could become something real. Maybe an impossible age gap and a criminal empire and a baby on the way could somehow become a family. Maybe. Okay, Roberto said, releasing Yongxi's hand. Hablemos. Let's talk, because apparently we have a lot to figure out. And as they all moved toward the table, parents and criminals and one terrified pregnant woman caught. Between worlds, Jaleesa pressed her hand to her stomach and whispered, Aguanta, bebé, ya llegamos. Hold on, baby. We made it. The storm had hit, but they were all still standing. And that, Jaleesa thought, was something. They sat around the low table like warriors negotiating a ceasefire, because that's exactly what they were. Roberto and Marisol on one side, Jaleesa and Gyeongsi on the other, Michael somewhere in between looking like he wanted to be anywhere else. The Ajumma who'd brought tea earlier reappeared with more, this time accompanied by plates of sliced fruit, rice crackers, and small dishes of banchan. She set everything down with practiced efficiency, bowed slightly, and disappeared like smoke. She's been with my family for 20 years, Gyeongsi said, pouring tea with steady hands despite the red mark still blooming on his cheek. Completely loyal, completely discreet. Good, Roberto said, accepting the cup, because we need to discuss things that can't leave this room. His eyes were sharp, tactical, the federal agent, not the worried father. Starting with threat assessment. How many of your uncle's loyalists are still active? Gyeongsi pulled out a tablet, brought up files with efficient swipes. When Choi Jae-sung was arrested, the organization had roughly 200 active members. Your testimony helped convict 37. He turned the screen so Roberto could see. Most are still in prison, but there are approximately 40 loyalists who escaped prosecution. I've been eliminating them systematically for 3 years. Eliminating, Marisol repeated, voice flat. You mean killing? Si, senora. No hedging, no softening. I mean permanently removing threats to your family. Roberto leaned forward, studying the surveillance photos and incident reports. How many are left? 7 confirmed. Maybe 10 if you count the ones who've gone underground. Gyeongsi zoomed in on a map dotted with red markers. 2 in Busan, 3 in Seoul, 2 in Incheon, the rest scattered throughout Korea. And they know I'm here. Not a question. They will within 24 hours. Your arrival will trigger alerts across multiple networks. Gyeongsi's jaw clenched. They'll mobilize. Try to strike while they think you're vulnerable. Then we move first, Roberto said. Draw them out. Use me as bait. Set a trap. No. Marisol's hand slammed the table hard enough to rattle the teacups. Absolutamente no, Roberto. Her voice shook with fury and fear. I didn't survive 15 years of running to watch you play hero in Seoul. Mi amor, we have a grandchild coming. Tears brightened her eyes. You don't get to sacrifice yourself now. Not when we finally... Her voice broke. Not when we finally have something to fight for besides survival. The raw emotion in her mother's voice made Jaleesa's chest ache, because Marisol Martinez was terrifying and fierce and had spent 15 years being strong for her family. Watching that armor crack was devastating. Roberto's hand covered his wife's, squeezed gently. Lo sé, mi vida. I know, my life. Using you as bait puts everyone at risk, Gyeongsi said quietly. Jaleesa becomes a target. The baby, Michael, your wife. His voice hardened. And I won't allow that. You won't allow? Roberto's eyes narrowed. Last time I checked, you don't give me orders. With respect, sir. Gyeongsi met his gaze steadily. In Seoul, in my world, I absolutely do. Because I know these men. I know how they think, how they operate, what they're willing to sacrifice. His hand found Jaleesa's under the table. And I know they'll use anyone you love to get to you. The tension was suffocating. Jaleesa watched her father and the man she loved face off across the table, 2 men who'd both lost everything to the same organization, now circling each other like wolves trying to decide if they were pack or prey. Then what do you suggest? Roberto's voice had an edge like broken glass. I handle it the way I've been handling it for 3 years. Gyeongsi's voice was steady. Certain, quietly, permanently, without putting your family in the crossfire. You mean you kill them while we hide? I mean I eliminate the threat while keeping the people I love alive. No apology in his voice. There's a difference. And we're supposed to just trust you? Marisol's skepticism was sharp. The man who manipulated our daughter, who got her pregnant as part of some revenge plot. No, Senora. Gyeongsi's honesty was brutal. You're not supposed to trust me at all, but you should trust this. I'm the father of your grandchild, which means Jalisa's safety is now more important to me than my organization, my reputation, my life. He looked at Roberto. So whether you like me or not, whether you ever forgive me or not, our interests are aligned. We both want the same thing. And what's that? Roberto asked quietly. For Jalisa and the baby to survive, no matter what it costs. Something passed between the two men. Understanding, maybe. Recognition that they were both willing to do terrible things for the people they loved. Está bien, Roberto said slowly. Okay. You handle the active threats, but I want daily security briefings, threat assessments, any movement from your uncle's people. I want to know immediately. Agreed. And Jalisa stays here, in this safe house, with full security, until it's over. Roberto's voice was firm. No arguments. Wait, Jalisa cut in. I don't get a say in this? No, her mother and father said in unison. You're pregnant, Marisol continued, switching to rapid Spanish. Estás embarazada, mija. No vas a ningún lugar peligroso hasta que nazca ese bebé. You're pregnant, daughter. You're not going anywhere dangerous until that baby is born. I'm sitting in a crime lord's safe house. Jalisa's voice rose. This is the dangerous place. It's the safest dangerous place, Michael interjected. He'd been quiet, but now he looked at Gyeongsi with something that might have been grudging respect. Right? You've got armed guards, surveillance, secure perimeter? Gurei. Yes. 24-hour security rotation, motion sensors on the perimeter. Daejung personally vets everyone who enters. Gyeongsi's voice was matter of fact. No one gets within 2 blocks without us knowing. Then Issa stays here, Michael said firmly. And I'm staying too. Michael, you're my sister. You're pregnant and caught up in something insane. Her brother's jaw set stubbornly. I'm not leaving you. End of discussion. Despite everything, Jalisa felt tears burn, because this was Michael, impulsive, protective, choosing to stay in a war zone rather than abandon his sister. Gracias, hermanito, she whispered. Thank you, little brother. Marisol was still watching Gyeongsi with narrowed eyes. And what happens when the threats are eliminated? When the baby comes? You think you can raise a child in this world? The question landed like a bomb. Gyeongsi was quiet for a moment, and Jalisa felt his hand tighten on hers beneath the table. No, senora, he said finally. I can't raise a child in this world, so I'm leaving it. Silence. Complete shocked silence. Even Daejung, standing guard near the door, looked stunned. You can't just walk away from a criminal organization, Roberto said carefully. I can, I will. Gyeongsi's voice was steady, absolute. I've been building an exit strategy for the past year. Legitimate businesses, clean investments, succession plans. When the baby is born, I'll transfer control to Daejung and step back completely. Youngnim. Daejung started, Greso. It's decided. Gyeongsi didn't look away from Roberto. I won't raise my child in fear, won't let them grow up surrounded by violence. So yes, I'm walking away. For Jalisa, for the baby. His voice dropped. For the family I want to build. Jalisa stared at him. They'd never discussed this, never even approached the topic of what their future would look like. You'd give up everything? She asked. Your power, your organization, everything you built? Great. His eyes met hers, and she saw no hesitation. Neowa egiril wihe. For you and the baby. Yodi dengi. Anywhere. The Korean made it devastatingly intimate. And you think your people will just let you walk away? Roberto's skepticism was evident. Some will, some won't. Gyeongsi's pragmatism was chilling, which is why I need the next 7 months to prepare, to eliminate threats, shore up loyalties, ensure a smooth transition. He paused, and to prove to your daughter that I'm capable of being more than what I was born into. Marisol made a sound that wasn't quite approval, but wasn't disapproval either. 7 months to become a different man. You think that's possible? I think, Gyeongsi said, quietly, that loving your daughter already changed me. The rest is just following through. Roberto studied him for a long moment. Then slowly he extended his hand across the table. If you're serious about leaving that world, about protecting my family, then we'll figure this out, together. His grip was firm when Gyeongsi took it. But know this, you hurt my daughter or that baby, and I don't care what you used to run. I will end you myself. Comprendes? Sí, señor. Comprendo perfectamente. Yes, sir. I understand perfectly. It wasn't forgiveness. It wasn't even acceptance yet. But it was a beginning. A tentative alliance forged from necessity and love for the same woman. Marisol looked at Jalisa, really looked, seeing the exhaustion, the fear, but also the determination in her daughter's eyes. ¿Tú lo amas? You love him? Sí, mami. Jalisa's voice was steady. Con todo mi corazón. With all my heart. Entonces lo haremos funcionar, her mother said quietly. Then we'll make it work. Porque familia es familia. Because family is family. Incluso cuando es complicada y loca. Even when it's complicated and crazy. The acceptance, conditional, cautious, but real, made Jalisa's throat tight. Gracias, Mommy, she whispered. Michael cleared his throat. So, when do I get to be the embarrassing uncle? Because I've already started a list of nicknames. Despite everything, they laughed. Even Gyeongsi smiled, a real smile that reached his eyes. You'll have 7 months to practice, Roberto said. Then to Gyeongsi, 7 months to eliminate threats and prove you can keep my family safe. Think you can handle it? I have to, sir. Gyeongsi's hand covered Jalisa's stomach protectively. Darren Sontaiken, so. There's no other choice. As they began planning, security rotations, threat assessments, the delicate mathematics of keeping a family safe in the middle of a criminal empire, Jalisa felt something shift inside her. This was real now. The baby, the family forming around her, the future they were fighting for. It wouldn't be easy. There were still 7 men out there who wanted them dead. Her parents still didn't fully trust Gyeongsi. Michael was one wrong move away from throwing a punch, but they were together, fighting as a unit, and maybe, just maybe, that was enough. Later that night, after her parents had been settled in guest rooms and Michael had finally crashed, Jalisa stood on the safe house's back porch, looking at Seoul's lights. Gyeongsi appeared beside her, silent as shadows, and wrapped a blanket around her shoulders against the cool night air. Your father wants daily security briefings at 0600, he said. Your mother wants to teach me Cuban cooking. Michael asked if I have a basketball hoop. A pause. I think they're testing me. They are, Jalisa confirmed. Mommy's ropa vieja recipe is impossible. She's checking if you have patience. Dad's briefings are really interrogations. Ara. I know. He pulled her back against his chest, and she felt his heart beating steady and strong. I don't blame them. His hand found her stomach, and she covered it with hers. Did you mean it? She asked quietly. About walking away, giving up everything. Gurai? Yes. His chin rested on her head. I've spent 20 years building an empire on fear. But you, Neo wa uri e, you and our baby are the first real things I've ever had. His voice roughened. The first things that matter more than power. She turned in his arms, studied his face, the tattoos, the scars, the eyes that had seen too much death but looked at her like she was salvation. I forgive you, she said softly, for the manipulation, the lies, all of it. He looked stunned. Jalisa, I don't forget, won't pretend it didn't happen. Her hand cupped his cheek, thumb brushing the fading mark her mother had left. "But I forgive you, because you're choosing us, because you're trying to be better." Her voice cracked. "Because I love you, the real you." Gyeongsi's forehead pressed to hers, and she felt moisture on his cheeks. This man who'd killed without hesitation, who commanded fear, was crying. "Saranghae," he whispered, "I love you. Naui Jeonbu. My everything." She kissed him, soft, slow, tasting salt and promise. When they pulled apart, his hand covered her stomach again. "Annyeong uri a," he said to the baby. "Hello, our baby. Abeojiga yaksokai, niaril jikyojoga. Daddy promises I'll protect you." From inside, her mother's voice called, probably with food. "Gaja," Gyeongsi said gently. "Let's go." "Gajog I gidarigo iso." Family is waiting. They walked back inside hand in hand toward the messy, beautiful, complicated family they were building. It wasn't perfect. There were still threats circling, still dangers ahead. But they had 7 months. 7 months to eliminate threats and prove that love built on lies could become something real. 7 months until their baby arrived and changed everything. Jalisa pressed her hand to her stomach and smiled. "Aguanta, bebe," she whispered. "Hold on, baby. Ya casi llegamos." We're almost there. 7 months later, Esperanza Himang Choi Martinez was born in a private hospital in Pyeongchang-dong, surrounded by armed guards, doting grandparents, an overprotective uncle, and 2 parents who'd survived the impossible. Choi Gyeong-si kept every promise. He eliminated the remaining threats, transferred control to Daejung, and walked away from the organization 3 days after his daughter's birth. The Martinez Choi family moved to Jeju Island, far from Seoul's underworld, close enough to visit, secure enough to breathe. And if sometimes Roberto Martinez and Choi Gyeong-si spent their mornings strategizing over coffee, while their wives rolled their eyes and their granddaughter played, well, some alliances forged in fire became families, and some families were worth every impossible, dangerous, beautiful moment it took to build them. The end. If Jalisa and Gyeongsi's impossible love story kept you hooked until the very end, if you're a sucker for dangerous men who fall first, for cross-cultural romance that defies every odd, for love that transforms monsters into fathers, then hit that subscribe button right now. Because I've got more stories where obsession meets devotion, where age gaps don't matter when the chemistry is this explosive, and where families are built from the most broken, beautiful pieces. Drop a comment and tell me, would you have forgiven Gyeong-si? Could you fall for someone who manipulated you first? And what should I name my next couple? Like this video if you believe love can be born from lies and still become the truest thing you've ever known. Thanks for riding this emotional roller coaster with me. I'll see you in the next story.